Welcome to the Tech M&A Podcast. Presented by the Corum Group. Welcome to the Tech M&A Podcast. Here we dive into the strategies, challenges, and candid stories of tech entrepreneurs who have successfully sold their companies. Today, I'm speaking with Andrew McConnell, whose pricing optimization engine for short-term vacation rentals, Rented, was successfully sold by Corum in 2022. Thanks for sitting down with me today, Andrew.
Pleasure to be here.
Can you tell us a little about yourself and Rented?
Yeah, I'm Andrew McConnell. I was co-founder and CEO of Rented. We were the pricing engine for professional vacation rental managers, Airbnb managers. If you think about how airlines price or hotels price, where it's dynamic and based on supply and demand, in vacation rentals, even though it's a much older industry, how people were still pricing was just kind of setting a price for the year. Maybe they had a summer rate and a not summer rate. And we came in and built a bunch of technology and had a managed service arm to help people really do revenue management for that category, like people had been doing in airlines, in hotels, in other industries.
What made you want to go to market?
The market kind of decided for us. So COVID initially for the first month or two was terrible for vacation rentals, where you weren't allowed to travel, nobody was doing it. And then the rules started slackening up and people felt way more comfortable in vacation homes and in elevators with a bunch of snotty-nosed kids at a hotel. And they had been cooped up for months. And so everybody, was a revenge travel, and you weren't really traveling internationally. So US travel especially was surging. So, the industry absolutely blew up. Tons of private equity money was pouring in. Strategics were looking to expand. And so within, it's like a 10-day period, I had something like 5 or 6 Ps and strategics and all this, all reaching out directly saying, hey, have you ever thought about selling? Well, I hadn't been thinking about it, but now I'm thinking about it pretty hard. And so that was why I did it. I initially, because I had so much inbound, thought I can do this myself. I know who all the players are. I'm just going to go run this process. And sure enough, did not close a deal. But what I did do was take long enough that Russia invaded Ukraine in the interim and multiples changed.
Right.
And so then I did go back to Richard, who we had talked to before at Corum, and said, hey, I actually could maybe use some help here. And sure enough, even though I thought I knew everybody, and here's the list, his list was 5 times bigger, and it included players in Europe and all these places I had never heard of. They were really serious. I wanted to go to diligence and really change the whole dynamic and got the deal done in the end. So, when people say about selling, I said, well, the best time to sell would have been 6 months prior. The second best time was right when I did, because it didn't get any better after that.
You really had a lot of plates spinning at this time, right? I mean, you also wrote a book at the same time you were trying to sell Rented. Didn't it publish just after your deal finished up?
It was kind of happening. All the going through the process was happening at a similar time. Yeah.
How did you balance all of that?
I had a really good team. It was, as I was building the company, I actually have a TED Talk on this, but was talking to a friend, very successful CEO, about how I wasn't just loving the day-to-day anymore. And he listened to me whine for a while and eventually said, look, this is your company. If you don't like what you're doing, you need to be the one to change what you're doing. And I thought about this. Okay, well, that requires me to think about, what do I want to be doing? And I love writing, and I was writing some articles and other things. So I want more time to learn and write. And if I'm going to take more time for that, what are the things that business really needs me for? And then what are the other things that need to get done, but don't necessarily need to be with me? And let me start hiring for that. And so I just hired a great CFO, a good COO, and hold those pieces together, where the things that really, really needed me still got me, but the things that didn't require me, and hey, these people were better at those things than I was, I could bring that talent in. That certainly helped. They helped kind of steer that whole ship, running that while I was running the diligence process. The speaking kind of helped, because we ended up selling to private equity, roll up with a strategic. And so the brand building, personal brand building, I think was part of the story. It's, hey, we're bringing this on. Like it's making this company higher profile than it may have been before. And so it wasn't the intention, right? The book I wrote had nothing to do with what I did for a living, totally different space, mindset. But I think it did end up benefiting it some.
Yeah, I like how you brought that into your TEDx talk in Atlanta. It was fascinating to see how you were able to bring stoicism. Is that the right term? Stoicism?
Yes, stoicism.
Yeah. Even though stoicism and retail aren't exactly the same space. It's still interesting to think about things as living rent-free in your head. Can you expand on that concept?
Yes, so because, my company was rented.com. And what we did was we rented out people's homes and we would pitch it as, we'll help you maximize the value of your most precious or second most precious asset, most valuable asset. And then started looking around and say, well, this isn't necessarily true. Your home, your physical home could fall apart, we saw Russian billionaires get things confiscated from them. These things can be taken away. Your most valuable asset is the one you had at birth, and it's your mind. And yet we live by giving it away for free to people who don't know we exist. Like Elon Musk gets a whole bunch of people's minds. They're sitting there following on Twitter. The president on tweets gets tons of people's mind. They don't necessarily, we know we as individuals exist, but we're just giving it away and then renting the pieces back and say, man, I really wanted to get to that today, but I just didn't have the time, or I was preoccupied with these other things. Okay, wait, you don't have enough time for the things you want. You gave it to Reed Hastings or Mark Zuckerberg or TikTok. And so the book is called Get Out of My Head. It's saying, get this stuff out of my head. How do we reclaim that ownership and stop living our lives as tenants? How do we own and then decide who do we want to rent to and under what terms?
Yeah. With that in mind, what advice do you have for CEOs about moving past just running their business and how to start looking forward to the future? Like how do you go about finding what you're passionate about now and developing that so that you can take advantage of your new time later after your sale?
Yeah, I think what had been helpful for me was hearing from and talking to people who had exited. I was an athlete before, and you'd see these friends of mine, maybe be Olympic gold medalists or whatever it is. And a lot of times the depression would come after the Olympics, after the gold, after you got everything you thought you wanted, was when you had that fall off. And that was part of the research on the mind tendency and ownership. Is that's actually how the dopamine cycle goes of, hey, the higher the high, the lower the low after, and the more prolonged that low is. And so it makes a lot of sense after an exit. Oh man, you can get into true clinical depression. So that knowing that kind of going in, I thought more about how to prepare for it. So one was not having my identity be the CEO or the founder of this company, or a CEO or founder in general, that I am a compilation of all these things. I do these things. I swim, I write, I parent, I run a company, I go build companies, right? That having a fuller view of myself helped separate me from identifying with this one manifestation. There's another piece on hearing from people that they got everything they wanted. Jim Carrey has a great quote on this, and then realized that didn't solve any of their problems, right? That wasn't the answer. And so this is actually an exercise in my book as well, of going through the practice of understanding what are you running to and what are you running from. And so we can say, hey, I'm running to an exit. Like, okay, great. But what specifically about that are you running to? Oh, financial security. Okay, well, then let's define that. What does financial security mean to you? What are the things that you need in place? And how is that actually going to solve it? I want freedom. I want freedom of my calendar or time. And going through, what am I actually going to? And then are there things today that I want to change? Like back to when I was whining about, hey, I don't like what I'm doing. He said, well, then change what you're doing. And going through that exercise earlier helped me realize a lot of the things I wanted to run to, like the freedom of calendar, all those, I could start shaping that today. I didn't need to wait for an external event to make that happen. If I needed the external event to make it happen, I probably wasn't going to really make it happen. And so starting to shape the life around the things I didn't want today, as well as the things I did want, made it where post-sale wasn't wildly different. Yes, the money in the bank account's different, but we always lived on half of our salary in the first place. Like that wasn't the main driver for me. So I don't, that may be kind of a rambling answer, but just being more clear on what you want in the first place and see, sale or no sale, how to craft that now. because delaying that it can be really sad because you could be wrong. And to be able to test if that is really what you wanted earlier helps you identify, nope, that wasn't it. Let me try something else. Nope, that wasn't it. Let me try something else without pinning all your hopes on something. And you get 30 years down the line. You're like, oh my God, I'm kind of at the end of the road and I never got to where I wanted to be.
Let's talk a bit more about your life after the deal. I know you're a big traveler. Can you speak more to that?
Yeah, we used to travel a lot more. I definitely did before my daughter was 2. Now she's in school. You kind of have to do it around school breaks.
Right.
We've done some fun ones. So I think pretty close after the sale, we went to Southern Africa, did Namibia, big safari and everything with her and my in-laws, which was so fun, right? Like got her the book and she could tick off all the different animals she saw. We went to Finland to go meet Father Christmas, which she had seen snow before, but she was a baby. This was her first time really playing in snow and seeing snow. So that was what she was way more excited about than the reindeer sledding and all the other stuff. So just sledding. We live in Bermuda. So every day is kind of like a fun travel, but I went to Aruba at the beginning of the year. We try to travel a good amount and see the world.
Yeah. You've really figured out how to effectively build that sense of joy into your life. What advice do you have for people who want to set themselves up for a similar journey as yours?
I would not wait for the sale to close and for the exit to start crafting the life you want for 2 different reasons. I mean, one, our lives are just the sum of our days. So we need to be deliberate in crafting those days to be the life that we want in the first place. The second piece is you could be wrong about what you think you wanted. The longer you take to find that out, the more time you've wasted in delaying your joy, delaying that satisfaction that you could have had earlier. So spend the time to think through what it is you're actually running to, what it is you may think you're running from, and start crafting that now.
Any final thoughts?
I would say since the sale, I thought I could do it on my own. I was wrong and Corum was 100% the right answer. And I have since introduced Richard to a whole bunch of friends like, hey, we're starting to think about this. I'm like, I get it. And I think you say you're talking to people, but trust me, it's not what you think it is. Just talk to Richard. It's totally worth it. You should do it. So not to make this a sales thing for Corum, but it is, there's certain products that I just heavily sell. Like when Uber first launched, when I first discovered Taylor Swift back in 2007, when Starbucks had an app, forever ago before others, they were just, I was like, you don't know how good this is. So sometimes you just come across products or services or companies and you say, I want to sing the praises because it is better than advertised.
Thank you so much, Andrew.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Tech M&A Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with your friends, colleagues, and fellow entrepreneurs. We release new episodes every 2 weeks, so make sure to subscribe and stay up to date on our latest interviews and tech M&A research. And if you have any suggestions or topics you'd like us to cover,